Hey NAI football fans, Corey Thorpe here with another edition of the NAIF Ball Podcast, powered by AdCraft USA, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts. Our friends at AdCraft have been with us for many years now. They've run web stores for us multiple times. These guys are NAI fans and family who are experts in the apparel and merchandise world. AdCraft allows you to take the hassle out of ordering. Let their knowledgeable design and customer service staff handle everything from hosting the store online, shipping the product, and helping your customers so you can get back to the game. Find them online at adcraftusa.com. All right, NAI football fans, this is Corey Thorpe back with another edition of the NAIF Ball Podcast, powered by AdCraft Custom Apparel and Merch. Best in the business since 1974. We'll talk more about them later, but we are in the mid-states for the next couple of weeks. And, Matt, this is strangely, and the mid-states has always been to some extent a tale of two halves. I
Mhm.
feel like it's a little different from normal, though.
Yeah, I think so. It felt like the upper portion of the conference this year, like there was a bit more, or I should say last season, there was a bit more parity. Is that
Yeah,
what I'm looking for?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, a couple things before we get into it. We are going. It seems really weird to be going through the mid-states, Mideast, um, and in fact, the whole mid-states as a whole, and not talking about Concordia. And we wish the coaches well. We know we've and the former players. We know the coaches have all gotten new spots there, but it's always hard to see. And to that end, we got the news last week that Siena Heights is going to be doing the same thing, closing down. And that creates a bit of a conundrum for the Mid-States Mideast, doesn't it, Matt?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because on paper, you're looking at 5 teams on this side of the conference next year. I imagine there's going to be some reshuffling. Be hard to imagine there's not, but like on paper, your conference is slimming out pretty quickly.
The problem
Um,
is that there's only 6 on the other side. You
yeah.
can't shuffle a team over. You just create the same problem on the other side. You're going to have to either say we're going to accept one auto bid and go to one division, or you're going to have to bring someone in from outside the conference. Um, you would hope, for the NAIA's sake, that you're able to bring in someone from like a D2 or D3 kind of space.
Yeah, for sure. But otherwise, yeah, like you said, like they might just have to bite the bullet and merge. No matter what, it's gonna be a lot different in this conference on both sides next year, truthfully, in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into it. The team at the bottom, the team that has been at the bottom for a long time, isn't necessarily at the very bottom now. Getting better here. The Madonna Crusaders, Brett Gaminsky entering his second season. And, you know, up 17 spots on offense. Maybe, maybe Madonna is starting to kind of get some purchase here.
Yeah, definitely want to get a win on the board this next season just for your own confidence.
Right?
But I think, yeah, like going into year two, kind of have the bar set at the floor. Like always talk about it with teams like Madonna, like nowhere to go but up, right? Your offense is looking like it's improving. Now there is an issue of also they do have some bodies to replace. You have your two all conference guys leaving from last season, which is not ideal for you. And finding someone to replace a weapon in Tari and Singletary, and then on the defensive line, first team all conference player Tommy Larson, definitely going to be hard to replace.
And you mention it, You return a minority of your defense, return half of your offense. Now, the good news here is Madonna was able to secure the services of, we just talked about Concordia, Concordia's old defensive coordinator, Coach Straz. Now, Matt, I don't know if you remember Concordia's calling card through all those seasons of always being in the playoffs, but it was pretty stout defense.
Yeah, definitely a good sign that you have somebody familiar with that type of elite defense coming in. Will be interesting to see how it plugs into the greater picture of Madonna. 'Cause like you mentioned, a team we always seem to be talking about first in these episodes, unfortunately. But who knows? Maybe this year's the year.
I think you'll see some life out of Madonna this year. Next up on the docket, the Lawrence Tech Blue Devils, and this is another team that we kind of see in the same spot every year. You have your second head coach in 2 years, unfortunately, coming in with Oscar Olenichek, the offensive coordinator from a year ago. This is a team that slid back 5 spots overall on the back of a defense that went down about 12 spots in SP plus. Um, it's another team that needs to get some purchase, needs to get some consistency.
Yeah, and they're going to have to find some new consistency. You do have a couple guys leaving for you, and you also have to worry about replacing, like we talked about with Madonna. There are quite a few pieces on both sides of the ball that you're going to have to worry about if you're Lawrence Tech. Obviously, going 2-8 is not exactly where you want to be, but Coach O can kind of put his stamp on this, and he's seen, at the OC position, how this program has kind of been run the past couple of years, and he can change it to his interests while keeping things the same that he wants to keep. So who's
The
to say?
the good news is that you've got your quarterback back in Ryan Schuster.
For sure.
As an OC, that's kind of step one there for you. You'll find some wide receivers. You return a minority of those. You only return about a quarter of your running back production. So that's going to be something you've got to figure out what how exactly that's going to happen there. I mean, on defense, the same thing. You return a majority of your D line and a minority of your DBs, half of your linebackers. It's it's gonna be difficult. There's upside, but you both of these teams at the bottom have to figure out what does consistency look like. How do you get a team? How do you get that flywheel rolling? Because I feel like with a lot of these teams at the bottom, you're consistently always young. Um, your players just seem to get poached. If you've got really good ones that you've found, you've got to figure out who's going to be those guys to start the motion of the flywheel.
Hmm.
Moving right along, the last year's new kid on the block, the Defiance Yellow Jackets, um, did not actually play a mid-states game last year, so straight 4-7. But they were 69th in SP plus, so pretty nice for your first year in the NAIA. And a fairly good offense. I mean, 51st. For a team like that, it's not bad. You just got to figure out what you're going to do with that defense that allowed almost or more than 5 yards per play on given up last year.
For sure. But I think something on the flip note from what we talked about with the other two teams is that they bring back a lot of people on that efficient offense and a lot of people on a defense that probably just needed some more time to bake, especially plugging into the mid states now, having those conference games. It'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. But got to be feeling pretty okay after how last year went for you. Truthfully, going 4-7 is really not that bad.
Yeah, I didn't quite know what to expect, and honestly, I expected a little bit worse for Defiance coming over. Looking at what they had done in D2, I believe it was D2 the year prior, um, wasn't it? It did not install confidence in me that they were going to be world beaters in their first year. They weren't world beaters, but you weren't Ofer or Twofer. So there's room to grow there, and we will see what Coach Bill Nickel is able to do next year. And we will be right back with the top half of the Mid-States Mideast after these messages from our friends at AdCraft.
So you want to create and sell custom merch for your team or business. That's exciting, but where do you begin? How much inventory should you order? How do you distribute orders? AdCraft has your answers. Streamline the way you offer custom merch by utilizing our risk-free web store service. We ship directly to each customer, and we have the fastest turnaround in the game. Raise funds for your team or get merch to your employees and patrons. Contact AdCraft today, and let's bring your merch to life.
And they are so good at doing that. The best in the business, like we say all the time. They handle everything for you. Look, as a football program, you don't need to be doing customer support for a web store that you've done. Let them handle that for you. They're super good at it. They've handled web stores for us before. Great product. NAI born and bred folks. Contact them at craftusa.com. Well, Matt, our next team, the short timers, Siena Heights, 44th in SP Plus, 49th in Massey. And, they were down 4 spots on defense. Siena Heights usually very stout on defense, but that's matched with a rise of up 4 spots on offense. And you see here our first positive yards per play difference here, 4.98 versus 4.81. You kind of feel good if you're Siena Heights. One, just purely selfishly for Coach Matt Cohn, is that the announcement that the school was closing happened in July, which means that the amount of time that your kids have to start looking to go other places is pretty limited preseason.
Yeah, definitely to their benefit, because also on paper you bring back a lot of guys for this team. And I think that 3-7 mark from last year probably didn't tell the whole story. This was still a very solid team. SP Plus will tell you this was like a top half in the country team, a little bit even above that mark. Looked very solid on defense. Like you mentioned, they did technically take a step back, but it was about as stout as we've seen in recent years. And we talked about this with Concordia last preseason. You're in a spot where you get to just kind of leave it all out there on the field, and that's it. It's your last shot for the university and your community, and you don't, like, obviously that is horrible for your program, and it sucks that it's going through that as a program and as a university. But on the field, your mindset, it feels a bit, you get to play a bit more free. The idea that this is kind of it, leave it all out there, can definitely be to your benefit. And we've seen Siena Heights be a team in years previous where they kind of sneak up on teams in this conference. And I think they are in a prime position to be doing that again in their final season.
Yeah, it's kind of like a pro player who is in the money year of their contract, and you know that you have got to put out some good film. If you're a freshman, sophomore, rising junior, you've got to put out good film if you want to continue to play it at the collegiate level. You've got to leave it all out there on the field. They've got a couple guys that are very good coming back between Tanner Rubenstein, Clark Hamilton, and the linebacker court, and Daji Alexander heads up the wide receivers. And you return a ton. You return your quarterback, almost all your wide receivers, most of your running backs. I think you're going to be fine offensively. This was an offensive unit that got better from 2023 to 2024. You would think that it would continue to get better. How much better, I don't know. What's the ceiling? Unsure. And then you can get back to that Siena Heights random 20th in defense here this year with as much as you return. Most of your D-line, most of your DBs are back. Majority of your linebackers, including those two that I talked about in Hamilton and Rubenstein. It's a really good spot. I mean, play your guts out, coach your heart out. It's going to be, I think, a good year for Siena Heights. So, Matt, last year, neither one of us saw this next team coming, and I kind of feel ashamed because we should have. And that's Taylor, up 32 spots in SP Plus, including a meteoric 45-spot rise on offense. It was a Taylor team that could have been in previous years if the divisions had been differently. Mike could have snuck in a playoff spot.
Yeah, I mean, they were on the brink behind one of the best offenses in the country. Like, that huge jump isn't just to, a top half or something. Like, they were the seventh best offense by SP Plus last year. They were averaging 7.15 yards per play. That is ridiculous.
To be fair, it's a really good thing that they were averaging 7.15 because they were almost giving up 6 yards per play on defense.
Yeah, that's the big point of worry with this team. Obviously, their defense last year was ultimately what held them back. But I think, too, you bring back a lot of those core guys. I know defensively, Reed Messer in the defensive backfield as an all-conference guy, you bring him back. That's great. Carter Lovelace at the punter position. Love our specialists. But the big one, I think, that you have coming back, along with Jonathan Grubbs on the O-line, is quarterback Damon Hockett. Um, Absolute baller, very athletic dude. Um, really can be a difference maker for this team, I think, going into this season.
The two big pieces that you're going to have to replace on that offense are going to be Jameson Chesser and Dakota Sonicson, though. I mean, Sonicson was a gadget player, seems a bit trite and a bit underselling him. 526 rushing yards from the wide receiver position, 365 receiving yards. Chesser had almost 1,200 yards rushing and 20 touchdowns. I mean, offensively, you were good. You lose a couple players on that defense, but overall, you bring back a majority on both sides of the ball, and as long as you can find someone to hand the ball off to and someone to throw the ball off to, you have a majority of the D-line and DBs coming back and a minority of your linebackers. You might be able to keep this upward trend moving.
If you're Coach Mingo, you definitely have to feel good about where you're at going into season 5, especially with how this team really did come out of nowhere. And by the end of the season, we were looking at them like these guys are on the bubble for a playoff spot. And I think they could be in a similar position next year. I think having the core at each position, you have a good chunk of production across the board coming back for you, even though you have to replace a couple key contributors, like the floor is super high for you. And I think that bodes well, especially when we talk about the final team here.
Yeah, I mean, we go from Taylor and being the 33rd ranked team by SP Plus to Indiana Wesleyan, the first ranked team by SP Plus, sixth in Massey, the third best offense in the nation, the 15th best defense. I mean, you're almost at 7 yards per play gained and just a hair over 4 yards per play given up. I mean, that was a fantastic season for IWU, and one that head coach Andrew Rohde is definitely looking to try to leverage as he continues to build the team his way after taking over what was already a program on solid footing.
Yeah, definitely. And we saw this Indiana Wesleyan team roll through most of their schedule last year. They looked absolutely fantastic. But I think the thing to note, and what I hinted at when we were talking about Taylor, they lose a lot of contributors, a lot of all conference guys that you have leaving. On the bright side, you do have a lot of really good guys coming back. You have 5 first teamers returning, 3 on offense, 1 on defense, and your kicker. Definitely some good pieces in play there. But
Uh,
holy cow, you got to find a lot of people to plug in some other spots.
You really do. The one big one that you got coming back that was a senior was Big Cheese, Anthony Cheeseborough. But then we go to this and you're going, oh crap, that font got small quick. It really did. Um, that's a quarterback. It's almost a 3,000-yard passer. Uh, 26 touchdowns, 10 interceptions last year. It's a running back that was an 1,100-yard back, an 850-yard wide receiver, and then the defense. Mosher and Bays had 195 tackles between them, 4 forced fumbles, 4 picks, uh, 5.5 sacks, and 17.5 tackles for a loss from 2 players. And then the 2 DBs added 6 interceptions and 17 pass breakups. Yeah, that's not ideal for you, especially on defense.
No, not remotely. But I will add, I think Indiana Wesleyan has gotten the benefit of being able to reload. We've seen in the past. This is a program who is always kind of in this upper spot in recent years. Definitely no reason to count them out entirely, but I feel like if this train stays on the tracks and operating at a level in which we've seen, at least similar to the past couple seasons, you're going to have some new guys stepping up. I think, especially in the quarterback room, you're going to have one of your backups next in line, take the reins. You do have, like you mentioned, those top contributors at the running back and the wide receiver position. Um, but who else steps up? Because 2 guys can't carry your entire side of the ball. So it'll be interesting to see how they plug in. But overall, still a very talented team, a team that we've seen be in this position before and come out of it the other side all right. I don't know. I'm just curious to see what it looks like for them.
Yeah, well, let's kind of give our picks here then. See where we think we're gonna land here. I'll start out with my winner. I think Indiana Wesleyan has enough space in the division to regress a little bit to the mean, talking maybe somewhere in the 10 to 15 range of SP plus. You regress a little bit. I think you're going to have enough room to regress and still win the division fairly easily. We'll see how much of a leap the other teams take, but I think Indiana Wesleyan is able to win this one. And for my dark horse, I'm gonna take Siena Heights. There's well, last year I picked Concordia to be the dark horse. There's a theme here. When you're able to leave everything out on the field and play like there's no tomorrow, because by late November there will be no tomorrow for Siena Heights as a football program. When you're able to do that, play fast, free football. There's something about that that brings you together and increases the level of play you're able to do. Matt, who you got for a dark horse?
Yeah, so I'm going the same route you did. I believe we did this with Concordia last year. I am also taking Siena Heights. You hit all the points that are important to touch on, Corey. Like it really just is your last shot. Leave it all out there. And I think this team, Siena Heights, has been in this position in the past and they've thrived, kind of nipping at the heels of some of the bigger dogs in this conference. So I like them here.
So who you got for your winner then?
Yeah, so you mentioned that Indiana Wesleyan has enough space to be all right to win the conference, and I challenged that a little bit. I'm going with Taylor. Definitely an upset pick, not a popular pick. But I kind of like where this team is at going into year 5 under Coach Mingo. I think you bring back enough of your, like I mentioned, the floor is super high for this team. And I think when I can't define where the bottom of Indiana Wesleyan's roster is, I have to go with what on paper, what I feels like the solid choice. And obviously, this is assuming that Taylor also takes a step up from where they were last year, which entirely, not a guarantee by any means. But I think this would be a good year for a Taylor, some of these other teams in the middle of this conference to make a run at it. So I'm taking Taylor here.
So let's see where that puts the Mid-States Mideast in our conference standing-o-matic here. The once powerful Mid-States Mideast, Matt, this was a division that had Concordia, St. Francis of Indiana, Indiana Wesleyan, Marion. We debated whether this single division could put 4 teams into the playoffs some years. And, well, this year by average SP+, they're 6th. And that's somewhat disappointing.
Yeah, definitely not the mid-states of old, at least on this side.
But maybe with only 6 teams, the standard deviation will be there. And unfortunately, when you have a team at 1 and a team at 90, it's not ideal.
No, that'll happen.
And it feels really, really weird that the once proud Mid-States Mideast is the worst division so far. That feels really wrong to me.
It does. At least we have 3 other divisions that could potentially bottom out this list. So fingers crossed for the Mideast, I guess.
The Appalachians over there going, we're not last. Yes. Poor Appalachian. It's disheartening every year to just watch them fall down the list every week. They won't be last this year. That is it for another episode of the NAIF Ball Podcast. And, well, we go to the other division of the Mid-States here next week. That's going to be super fun. Can't wait to see that side. That's got just as many questions, I feel like, as the Mideast. What's never in question is the amazing, our amazing patrons. And they're the guys that keep us going. If you want to support what we do, this is the best way for you to do that. And those fine folks are DSU Cone, Bob Boone, Roger Meyer, Jeremy Vobel, Fred Christensen, Ace Well, and Marty Seabolt, Nick Ryan, Kyle Gregory, Tyler Pierce, Justin Hoffman, Steve Speakman, Brian Shake, Julianne Shager, Nate Sopier, Stephen Cutler, Julie Loughton, Nathan Moore, Ryan, Jason Crawford, Charles A. Flowers, Todd Nick, Sean Chamberlain, Zach Lance, Casey Willison, Carol C. Suggs, Chris Derek Flowers, Jason Garnon, USF Suggs, Ian Brookshire, Joey Breckel, Coca Nicholas, Tim Burrow, and Midwest Sports Net. It is, we're getting down there. Midwest
Getting to
next
crunch
week.
time, man.
I'm super excited. As we're recording this, the NAI announced today that the national championship game is going to be held at Crowley ISD Stadium in Fort Worth, Texas, in the Dallas Metroplex. Honestly, I can't think of a more logical place to put the championship game. Airline hub, easy to get to from the Midwest. Easy from the Midwest, you can bus down. From the Southeast, you can fly, and it's a cheap flight. Good for fans, good for teams. There's no shortage of things to do. My question is, do you think there'll be a rush to see who can practice at Jerry's World?
Yeah, probably.
I would definitely do it. I mean, wait, isn't SMU also around there as well?
I believe so, yeah.
I think so too. I mean, you've got SMU Stadium over there. I think
Yep.
Dallas. Does
I'm gonna
Dallas?
be down there this weekend, actually, Corey.
That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'll get a lay of the land and let you know.
Yeah, they are in. Yeah, they are in Dallas. Look at that. We know our geography. That's gonna be a fantastic game. Put the barbecue on. Get your Tex-Mex fix. I'm a big fan of this. So until next week, we get the other half of the mid states. We'll see you then, and if not there, then on the Twitter feed.